And we do have some people here that are joining in. Thank you guys for joining. They were just having some technical difficulties. But anyway, so this is Brent Walberg with Windermere Real Estate. He is part of MOR, Missoula Organization of Realtors, and they're taking time out of their schedules to come and talk to us about the real estate process. And we really want to thank them. And I'm just going to kick it off to Brent. I'm going to make him a host, and then he's going to share a PowerPoint with us.
All right.
Brent.
Well, hey, thanks for having me. And let's see. Looks like not yet. Okay. Well, so I'll do a little quick intro on myself while we get that going. So yeah. I got muted there, guys. I don't know if that was intentional or not. Okay, so
you're good. Sorry, but you are now.
Okay. All right. I've got disabled participant screen sharing when I click share screen there quick while we work on that. So yeah, so my name is Brent Walberg. I am a realtor with Windermere. You gotta love this technology, right, guys? Okay, look at that. Okay, I'm ready to rock. Let's do it. Let's get it to full screen. Come on now. Okay. Come on now. There we go. Okay. Hey, guys. I think we're recording. I think we got sound on. Everything appears to be rocking and rolling here. Like I was saying there, my name is Brent Walberg. I'm with Windermere Real Estate. And but a lot of what I do is I do a lot of volunteer work with the Missoula Organization of Realtors. And we're really happy to provide speakers and volunteers and participants that can come chat with your group. We'll talk about a lot of things in the home buying process, share a little bit of our insider realtor lingo that we use, that kind of fun stuff. And, talk about kind of a handful of things with the process, things that you will encounter and things that you experience, and just a lot of just kind of the aspects of what this real estate market is. So a few things that I do quite heavily is I speak at the home buyer education course. And one segment that I speak on is basically selecting a realtor, the process of using a realtor, what a realtor brings to the transaction. And other things that I also do quite frequently is I chair the Missoula Organization of Realtors housing report. And so that's all things data and information, market numbers, and all those kind of things like that. And so when the Missoula Young Professionals came to MOR and we talked about this presentation, we figured with my background with the housing report, and also then with some of these parts of the home buyer class where we talk about selecting and interviewing realtors, that this would be a good little segment to share with your group. So I've got, let's see here. The other thing I was saying here before we started the call here, if there's a question in the chat, fire it away. Don't wait till I'm done. I enjoy having more of a conversation than just talking for 30, 45, 60 minutes or whatever. So interrupt me or unmute or whatever, and let me know, the questions you might have, especially if I'm talking on a specific point and you've got a specific question in mind. Just let me know. And let's see here. Click, I'll make sure so I'll get notifications with the chat that when it pops up. And if I do miss something or skip something, if maybe someone with the Young Professionals group can just hop in and let me know if we have a question, that'd be great. So let's see here. One of the things that we hear quite a bit is us realtors, we love our acronyms, right? Like, look at this, like my name, ABR, AWD, AHWD, CRS, EPRO, GRI, MLS, all these things. In real estate, we love this stuff. What does it all mean? And the big thing, you hear this a lot, the MLS. What is the multiple listing service? Well, so in Montana, we are a non-disclosure state, which means that you cannot publicly find what people paid for their houses when they purchased them. There is no public database, and in a lot of in a lot of essential things, there's not even private databases that one can access statewide that provides sales records and information. There is one spot, and that is the Realtor MLS. MLS stands for Multiple Listing Service, and what it is it is a complete database that houses all information of active, under contract, sold, and off market properties that are listed with a realtor. And that is regardless. So I work for Windermere Real Estate. And as a realtor member, I sign an agreement that I have to provide all of my listing and sales information into the MLS. And so does every other agent that is a realtor in essentially the western side of Montana. We're all under one large multiple listing service that spans from Butte, Helena, Great Falls, Kalispell, Missoula to Hamilton. So it's a lot of data, a lot of information. I think last month you had Mandy Snook in here. She's a member of the MLS. If you're a realtor, you're a member of the MLS. And part of our agreement is that we are required to put our information in here. So one of the big reasons why I use a realtor, what's the benefit? We have access to this database. We know how to use this database. We know how to research and look at data and information within this database. For people that I talk to that are in this market right now, we are seeing properties being relisted today that sold 6 months ago for quite a bit more. And so you can track what's going on. Like, what did they do? Why did they do it? Is it still worth it? Things like that. Or you can see a lot of historical information and stuff like that. The other great thing about our multiple listing service, and we explain this a little bit more in detail in like home buyer education courses, is it also requires compensation to a buyer's agent. So when a home is listed for sale by a listing agent, there's a commission that's taken. That listing agent is then required to, in the MLS, provide a compensation to a buyer's agent as cooperation through that service. So a lot of people, especially first-time buyers, when they're starting to buy their home, they wonder, oh man, I'm looking at my loan estimate and what I got to pay for a home inspection, and I got to pay for a realtor. Well, the price of the property you see listed includes a fee already that goes to your buyer's agent. So there is no extra fee if it is through the MLS to your buyer's agent. Now, the National Association of Realtors is just changing some language because a lot of people used to hear marketing that said, work with me as a buyer's agent. I'm free. It's free. It's no cost to you. It was determined rapidly that that language is a little misleading. It's not totally free because if you see a house that's priced $275,000, there's a commission that seller is paying out of that price that goes to the agents involved in the transaction. So that you won't see that language as much anymore. But now just know when you look at listed properties, the compensation for the agent that you hire to represent you in your purchase is built in right there. So like you can see there as well too, national statistics, over 9 in 10 of every home sale occurs with realtors within the multiple listing service. So very valuable tool. We talk quite a bit and we go into a little bit more depth than that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to hop forward here a little bit as well too, because I hope just this little brief overview here kind of gave you just kind of a quick glimpse of what this database does. Only realtors can access it. They have to share data with all realtors and cooperate with all realtors that are part of it. So it's an excellent tool that we all use, and especially that all home buyers and home sellers use to get connected and sell a house, buy a house, do all that good stuff. So one of the big things we want to talk about here in this presentation was just the process of finding an agent, selecting an agent. How do I do it? It's such a weird thing because you think about a lot of other situations where you might, do we have a chat there? Let me see here. So here's a question. Just making sure everyone's slides are moving and presentation still on MLS page. Yep, sure are, Jackie. So basically what we get is, the process of hiring or selecting a real estate agent to represent you, especially in a purchase, there's really no set way. And so what some information that I like to help provide people is just a little bit of an overview that shows some things you can do.
Brent, real quick,
Yep. What's up?
are you still on the MLS slide or?
I sure am. Yeah, I sure am.
We had a question in the chat, so.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I saw one where I was like, are we still on the slide? So let me pull up chat here. Okay. Oh yeah, just if we're still on it. Yep. Okay. Yep. Moving forward here. So process of selecting an agent. So, you know, the funny thing, and I tell people this quite a bit, real estate, the profession of real estate is a largely referral based industry. I myself as a realtor, everybody is realtors. We are independent contractors. And so we work in a realm, in a situation where the majority of our business, the people that we work with, the people we help every single year, don't come to us from advertisements on websites, from fancy billboards, signs in yards, knocking on doors, pre-pandemic, and stuff like that. Um, a lot of it comes from referrals from people that we have previously worked with who have had a good experience with us. And so the National Association of Realtors has a statistic that about 2/3 of all the clients that a realtor will help annually will be sent to them by way of referral. And that referral can be a family member, a friend, a coworker, someone you know that recently bought or sold a house, or a referral from another professional or a real estate agent in a different market. And so, what we like to coach people is ask around, because I think it kind of seems like as people start to explore the process of buying a home or selling a home, that they, all of a sudden you start running into people. Oh yeah, I just bought last month, or I bought 3 months ago, and it was great or it was terrible. So I think what a few things here, and we could talk through a few things. What I've got a little list here, and it's not the most inclusive list, but it's a couple of very interesting talking points about some questions you can ask realtors when you're interviewing potential agents, especially, and this is geared more towards buyers agents. But I'm going to hop forward one slide here if it lets me. Okay, computer, that's great. There we go. Questions asked buyer's agent. So what we've got here is, so a few of these lists that we provide, some of the information that the question actually provides surprises people a little bit. And the first one is kind of one that catches people a little bit by surprise. Is this your full-time job? So like I said, real estate agents are we're general contractors, which means in almost every employment situation that a realtor has, they don't have a set amount of hours. They don't have, and so they can work as much or as little as they want within this profession. So what I always tell people though is there are full-time agents, there are part-time agents, and there are great agents that do both, and there are bad agents that do both as well too. An agent being full-time or an agent being part-time does not make them a good or bad fit for you. But what I caution people is if to make sure that if an agent is in a situation as a part-time agent, that they have availability for you based upon your schedule. Because if this agent, let's just say, works nights and weekends as much as possible in your availability to look at homes or to take part in a home sale or purchase process is nights and weekends, is going to be pretty hard to connect with this agent. So just some things that can sometimes surprise people, that there is a good share of part-time agents. And like I said, a lot of them are great. But what I just always tell people is, as you're starting to talk with agents and interview and get to know them, check to make sure that their schedule of availability lines up best with yours. And then this next point here would say, so how many sales have you handled in the area that I'm looking in? It's always good to know your agent's experience within the market you're looking in. And so we see this quite a bit and I think Mandy actually talked about this last month, right? Like expand a little bit of your horizons, like look a little bit further beyond your boundaries. And so, you're working with an agent in an area and it's like, hey, I'm starting to think about looking down the Bitterroot Valley. How old do you know? Stevensville, Victor Hamilton area. I'm willing to make the drive. This agent says, I've never done anything down there. Well, maybe it's not the biggest deal, but it would be good to know your agent's experience in areas that you're looking in. The other big point here too that I do point out, and it's maybe the bigger question, especially in this market of very tight supply, is just finding out how many of their clients does that current agent have looking in your exact area and price range. And so an example I like to use quite a bit is, let's say you're looking and you want to be in the central part of Missoula, spending up to $350,000. You want a 3-bedroom or more house. And if that buyer's agent has one or two other clients looking the exact same specifics of home and price range, a very good question to interview and ask your agent, potential agent, is how are they going to handle that situation where they have multiple buyers for the same property? And it seems like a little bit of a crazy question, but honestly, we are seeing houses that are listed now get shown 20, 30, 40, 50 times over the stretch of 4 or 5 days. And you run into a lot of situations where there's overlap where multiple buyers are working with one agent. And so for you as a home buyer, it's really good to know if this is a situation that you're going to feel comfortable with your agent, or if it's a situation you're not comfortable with. And you want to know that at the get-go, not once you've fallen in love with a home and suddenly find your buyer's agents writing 3 offers for 2 other people plus you on that same house, right? Okay. Have there been any complaints filed against you? So this is kind of an interesting question because I think you look at, I think whenever, right, we all kind of do the same. When you research products for a large purchase, you look at the reviews. And a lot of realtors have profile pages all across multiple different platforms. So there's resources there where you can check agent reviews. But in terms of complaints filed against you, there's 2 kind of aspects, places where a complaint can be filed. The state of Montana, you are required to have a license to sell real estate. And so there is a licensing board that can hear complaints of violations of license law. You can look up a licensee's name and see if there's been anything filed or found against them there. The Missoula Organization of Realtors, or realtor level, handles ethical complaints. And on that front, a lot of times ethical complaints are generally kept confidential until there are a certain amount that have occurred. And I think it's 3 or more. And once you get beyond that point, then they do become published and made public. But the Missoula Organization of Realtors has a website, MissoulaRealEstate.com, and you've got information that you can find there as well too. How do you get paid? Okay, we talked about that, right? So MLS is how a buyer's agent in 92% of all sales that occur can get paid. And so the compensation is there, and it's built into that price that you see in the home. Of course, what about that other 8% when it's for sale, when it's a private party, a builder, or for sale by owner? Those are good conversations to have with your buyer's agent as to can we work a commission or a fee into the sales price of the home, or is it something we can set up on the side? And so those type of situations, again, good conversations to have before you make the offer, before you get too far down the road, and talk to your agent about how that whole process works to make sure it works for the both of you. And then the last one that I have on this sheet, and I've got more on the next slide over here. When am I committed to working with you? Again, the home buyer education class is an excellent resource, and any good buyer's agent will take you through our forms library as well too. But we as realtors in Montana all have access to the same forms. In a purchase, the main document is called a buy-sell agreement. It's a 10-page document that outlines the entire purchase. And we also have 2 additional documents to go with it. There's a buyer's agency, a buyer broker form, and then a form that discloses professional relationships in real estate. The buyer broker form is a legally binding contract where you officially become in contract with that buyer's agent to represent you. So when am I committed to working with you? It's when that form is signed. Now, here's the better question to ask your buyer's agent. When are you going to ask me to sign that form? There are different ways of practice that agents will do this. Sometimes it's at the time when you first sign the first buy-sell offer on a house. In other situations, some buyer's agents will ask you to sign that pretty early, or some will even ask before you even start looking. And so it's a good question to ask buyer's agents as to when that point of commitment comes and when they expect that. Now, the buyer's agency form does allow you to either have an exclusive buyer's agency relationship or a non-exclusive one where you would be free to continue to work with other buyer's agents. Personal practice for me, I usually do not have those signed until we write a buy sell because I want to make sure the professional relationship is going to work out well. Because if the buyers don't want to work with me or I don't want to work with them, I don't want to be stuck into a contract where we both don't like each other and trying to achieve some common goal like that. So that's a great question just to check to see, just to know when you are officially at a point with that buyer's agent. And then also talk to that buyer's agent as well too about things you can do if you become dissatisfied with their service and wish to end that contract as well too. All right. Part 2. Who else will be working with me? I use this as a great example because I'm in a family team. And I think you hit a situation where a lot of buyers actually don't recognize that or don't realize this, where you're referred, hey, call Brent Walberg, he's great. And then suddenly it's my wife, Courtney, or my sister, Christina, who meets you at a house to look at a place. Uh, and again, like all these questions here, like the full-time, part-time, I'm not advocating one way or the other to say one is better than the other. One is better, one option's better than the other, because it really comes down to your best fit with an agent and what works the easiest for you and helps you get into a house. But so it's good to check with some agents because sometimes teams will have situations where they have a dedicated buyer's agent. Other times it'll be whoever's available. Then at that point, you might be working with multiple agents over the course of your purchase or your sale. On the flip side as well, too, there's plenty of agents I know that are just a one-person shop. It's just this one agent. And so what if a house comes up that looks amazing and that person's on vacation? Of course, in all situations, I think actually Mandy Snook is in that situation. She just works in her own business. They have people that cover for them to help out. But it's a good question to know, just so you've got that covered and you know what to expect as you get started with a realtor. Next point, am I obligated to work with your lender, your inspector, or other service providers of yours? I will say if you are told you are obligated to work with somebody, that's a red flag because you are not. In this world of real estate, the thing I always point out to people is that we as realtors, we do this every day. We help all sorts of buyers and sellers. We overcome problems. We get connected with professionals for all the different twists and turns that hit you in a real estate transaction. So a good realtor will provide you a list of recommended people or know some professionals to talk to, but you're never obligated or required to work with them. It comes as a suggestion. So if you have a home inspector that an acquaintance of yours or that has spoken home buyer class or someone that you know personally who you have vetted and you feel comfortable with, you can use that person. So that's one point here that we always like to bring up. When can you get me into a home? That's again just talking about fit. Make sure your schedule aligns with your agent's schedule, especially if you're looking at properties. You just want to make sure that that agent is there and able to show you properties when you can look at them as well too. The big one we always like to poll the group when we're doing the home buyer class is, can you represent the same buyer and the same seller on one property? And it's identifier language is dual agency. We always, ask, do you think this is legal in Montana? Yes or no? And 2/3 of the class always says no. And the answer actually though is yes. Dual agency in Montana exists. And so this is a point where I always talk to people about, make sure that this is something that you have discussed with your agent about dual agency. And if you feel that comfortable that they will be able to provide equal representation to both you and the seller in a situation where they represent the seller and you, the buyer. I hear it all the time too. People say, oh, this seems like a conflict of interest. There's no way. I'd never let it happen. Absolutely not. No way, no how. And I think a great example that I use all the time is in this market, a lot of times, especially home buying, is not something that just happens over a course of a couple of days or over the course of a weekend. It takes months because there is very limited inventory out there. So we wait and we watch and we wait and we watch. And what happens is you're 2-3 months down the road and your buyer's agent says, hey, guess what? Some sellers of mine just called and we're going to be listing this house. It's going to be a 3-bed house in the middle of town and it's going to be $349,900. And oh my gosh, it's a perfect fit. So, suddenly it's not so nefarious of a situation as maybe some people imagine it to be. So these are situations where it's really good to talk to your agent about how they handle the situation and what you're comfortable with. Now, if you absolutely are not comfortable with dual agency, your agent most likely can probably refer you to someone within their company or another professional that they know in those one given situations where you can receive your own independent representation that's not dual agency. So great conversation to have. It doesn't happen a lot, but when it does come up, you want to make sure you're prepared for it in advance rather than, right as it hits you. What happens if I don't want to work with you more? Like I talked about, make sure that you address that as you're going through your contracts with your agent. And then the one bullet point that I also added in here as well, and this is really relevant to this market, talk to your agents about how they work in what is the most competitive real estate market in my 21 years of business that I've ever seen, because the amount of experience and skill and ability to successfully represent, especially buyers in multiple offer situations, these hyper competitive type of windows. Uh, how do we structure our offers the best? How do we make these as clean as attractive as possible? Do we write letters to the seller on behalf of us, the buyers? But how can we make sure those letters don't put us in any sort of bind when it comes to fair housing or something like that? So there's all sorts of different little things that great agents can help you with, and talk to them about that, and make sure that their answers to you show that they've got that skill and ability to move within what this market currently is. And like I said too, and I've said this before, um, sometimes some agents that are newer to the business might not have that breadth of experience, but newer agents have managing brokers, and they usually have teams around them and support services that can help them. And so just because an agent's new doesn't necessarily mean that they're not going to be able to best represent you in a purchase. But does their training, does their office support, do they have those tools there that can help them to be able to help you with your purchase fit and work? So these are just some of the questions, but it's interesting because I think a lot of people just assume, well, this guy or this lady, opened this house up for me last week, and I guess I'm stuck with them. Or I currently rent from this person, or my neighbor used them, so I guess I'm just going to call this person. Until you get into a contractual obligation with the buyer's agent, you're free to work with others. And so, what I talk about quite a bit: call around, talk to other people that have been part of the process, and do a little bit of research and investigation on agents. And what you'll find is they all operate quite differently. And you're going to find one that's a really good fit for you. And then once you are in sync with an agent whose schedule, whose everything aligns with you best, it's going to make the process so much more easier. So uh, that's what I've got for a little bit of overview for questions, interviewing, speaking with an agent, selecting an agent, just kind of a couple of quick things there. So we are about 30 minutes in. Let me see if I can hop down to my next slide. Okay. Missoula housing report. So this is kind of the other thing, and some data and some information that we generally talk on here. So the Missoula housing report is an all-inclusive report that the Missoula Organization of Realtors annually does, and usually is released by now. Like you can see here on the top, not yet released. Keep an eye out for it, MissoulaRealEstate.com. The reason being is what we have always done with the housing report is it's a PDF document. It's 30 to 40 pages long. It contains sections of information from a group of community experts that we have that talk on all things like you see there: land sales, real estate sales, rental information, financing, homelessness, foreclosures, all sorts of other things like that as well too. What we are moving to is a more interactive dashboard that provides a lot more real-time data and information. So it's not a static piece of information for a full year. What we're finding is that move to this to much better technology is taking a little longer than we initially anticipated. So we will be having a report that comes out very soon. It's going to reflect data from the year 2020 and what that showed. I had a couple kind of teasers and some little information that you will be seeing from it, but the data, as of course now we get more, we're getting closer to May, so we're going to kind of getting closer to a midpoint of 2021. So this data is continuing to evolve and change. But like we see here, what's going on and what's happening within this market? We are at a historic low of availability of supply of homes. We also still have incredibly low interest rates. We are in a period of economic recovery. Interestingly, I just saw a report. I was part of a report today from a national economist who talked about Montana in comparison to the rest of the United States when it came to the economic impacts of the COVID shutdowns and the recovery. And Montana is, I think, is one of the top 5 states in the U.S. in terms of job retention after the bottom of the unemployment from the COVID shutdowns at about this point last year. So we are, in retrospective to the rest of the US, we are gaining back to where we were. And so what we see is stronger, better economic indicators. Uh, People's savings are up compared to where they were before. Low interest rates. People are wanting to buy homes. So, but what we're also seeing on the flip side is there's a lot less stuff to buy. So, what does that create? Lots of competition, multiple offers, bidding over asking, and situations where most all properties are selling for over asking price currently than they ever have been in our recorded data that we have in the multiple listing service. And a lot of this is in relation to supply. So what you see here on my slide here, market supply getting lower. Now this is an annual look back. And so there's a few things here, and I'm going to show you some supply broken apart by price point as well. But the supply within our market represents basically the last 30 days of sales activity compared to the amount of active available listings there are right now. This goes all the way back to 2010. So what do we see here? The absorption total. So what this means is it's a number of months worth of supply. And so you look at that very wonderfully stressful time to be a real estate agent in Q4 of 2010, the floor, or kind of the trough of the point for where Missoula is at when it came to housing supply once the real estate bubble had burst. And we had nearly 30 months of supply, meaning that in the previous 30 days, it would take over 30 more months for just that current amount of active homes to be absorbed to sell. So what happens over the course of this growth and recovery? Well, you can see it right there in the chart. We went from basically going to a point of oversupply to falling within those red dotted lines. Now that's normal supply. And what is considered to be normal supply is anywhere from 3 months to 9 months of inventory in the market at any given time. 6 months is kind of your equilibrium point. Well, so into 2016, suddenly we went from, still hanging in there doing okay to basically getting those little spring bumps. You notice the bump ups that hit usually between Q1 and Q2, spring listing activity. And then 2020, it just completely slides off, where virtually less than 1 month worth of listed supply. And when you have that low of supply, it means the advantage in the market is the sellers. The disadvantage is the buyers. You go back to 2010, if you're a home buyer, you could negotiate the heck off a house because they were just happy to have an offer. In 2010, it's the flip side. And so you have to, as a buyer, recognize there are multiple people competing all for the same property in a lot of situations. So you need to make your offer as attractive as possible to the seller for these situations where to try to get that house for yourself. Okay, so these are some other things that we look at. So we call this the absorption rate, months market supply. And I put this together yesterday for this presentation. And what we also like to do is we break this apart by price point, because what we can say is the total month supply in Missoula as of yesterday was 0.8 of a month. Okay, what does that? I mean, is that market wide? Does that affect everybody at every price point and every opportunity? And what you can see here is not really. It actually shows that in a lot of situations, there is no supply. There's absolutely nothing to buy under 200. The heart of the activity between 275 to 425, there's even less amount of total market supply than the total month, total running number for the whole month. And then when you get to our high end market, it kind of actually moves back into a normal supply point. So we break this apart so you can kind of see different price points have different levels of activity. But what I can tell you is historically what we have noticed in Missoula over the last, 2 years now, roughly, it used to kind of be 275 and under was just crazy low on supply. And then it moved into 275 to 350. And now it's just kind of expanded out, which what this tells us right here is anything 750 or under, there is less than 1 month of supply listed across any home, regardless the type of property. And that'd be house, condo, townhome, or a manufactured home on land in Missoula as a whole. And so this absorption rate number comes from basically dividing your number of active listings by your sold in the last 30 days. And we use it as basically an indicator to determine basically how tight of a market it is. And so I think anyone that is looking to buy or talks to people that are looking to buy in this market, these numbers don't come as a surprise. It is a very tough, challenging time. This is something that any good buyer's agent can put together for a buyer when they are working with them. And so obviously we have these Missoula numbers all day long, but say you're looking in a little bit different area. So you're looking a little out of town. What's going on in Lolo? What's going on in Frenchtown? What's going on in Hamilton or Superior or Polson? And so being able to calculate these numbers and look at this to know, do we need to make the offer this afternoon, or do we need to go 5% or 10% over ask, or can we just get it for full price, or can we negotiate them down? These types of numbers are going to help give you a little bit of indicator as to what is going on in that market. And a good agent can put this together for you and explain it to you and take you through it and help you understand what kind of market you're looking at and getting into. Okay. I think I've got 2 more slides here. And so these are, people are always kind of fascinated by neighborhood data and neighborhood information, what goes on in the areas around town, especially in Missoula. So this first one is our volume reports that we have that will come up in our housing report that talks about sales activity by neighborhood. And so what you can see here is the 3 kind of biggest areas in terms of sales volume activity, just sheer activity, regardless price point. The Mullen Road and Expressway is the top champ. It has been for years. And the reasoning why is I live out this way. I live in 44 Ranch myself. This was the way Missoula is growing. You have infrastructure, we have subdivisions, we have more subdivisions coming soon. And so this is the spot where people are building, where the city's expanding, where people are going. And so, yes, of course, this is going to be the spot where you're going to see the most amount of growth in terms of sales volume. Central Missoula. Now, the Central Missoula is actually kind of a tight little window. What it is it's, let's see, west of Russell, but east of Reserve, south of the river, north of 39th. It's actually kind of a small little area. And I'm going to show you why in the next slide, why Central Missoula is such a big spot. One of the things is, of course, the Central Missoula area has a lot of favorable zoning for higher density amounts of homes, townhomes, condominiums, things like that. Then the other one, third, is Miller Creek. Miller Creek is Linda Vista, Maloney Ranch, that kind of south end of town. And again, its volume, excuse me, its volume is largely driven by new construction and expansion. Interesting. Now we flip it over. Median sales price by neighborhood. Notice where, it's kind of on the bottom there, Central Missoula is. Central Missoula is also the second lowest median sales price at the end of last year, under 300,000 in Missoula. So why is its volume so high? Because people are trying to find affordable housing, and Central Missoula has it. And so that is one spot where a lot of sales activity is occurring. Notice Mullen Road and Expressway on the South Hills, also right there. You flip it back up here, and I think the South Hills right there kind of on the bottom, also one of our more top performing neighborhoods. So it shows you can definitely see a lot of these situations where people are trying to get to areas and activity is quite heavy in spots where you have that lower median sales price because people are trying to get into more affordable options. The top 2 neighborhoods in terms of median sales price, both the Rattlesnake and Grant Creek. Rattlesnake sits right at 500,000. Grant Creek is just the shade under at 499. So, man, excuse me. So it's interesting when you look at these. I'm gonna take a drink of water. Hang on. There we go. When you look at these and you see that sometimes it's availability of land and expansion. Notice also Miller Creek is the 3rd highest median sales price as well too. So Miller Creek being the 3rd highest in volume, but also 3rd highest in median. It doesn't always necessarily mean the highest median sales price neighborhoods are the slowest, but also growth and expansion, new construction, new neighborhoods, options to buy also can tend to drive this as well too. So that's some of our neighborhood data and some of our information. Our Missoula housing report, which we are hoping to have released in the next few weeks. We have another meeting next week to cover that. Hopefully our release point. It's going to cover far more data than what I've just shared here, where we are going to be talking about it's a lot more of a dive into supply, into neighborhoods, and then that whole financing and affordability aspect. We add in a lot of demographic data as well too. So there's a whole bunch of additional information that report is going to have. And once I've got it available, I'll share it out to the group here. So your group can share this with attendees that would be interested in it as well too. So I will stop sharing here. Let me see here. That is generally what I've got. So what I just say is what we try to do here with the Missoula Organization of Realtors is provide information to empower buyers and sellers and people that are curious about our real estate market to make as informed decisions as they possibly can. And this is something that I personally have been a part of for years. And we have, as you've heard from previous speakers, and I'm sure upcoming ones that you have as well too, we have an excellent group of people and individuals within our profession that really enjoy providing this advice and love taking time to have these conversations and talk to people about any questions, any concerns, or anything that they might have, and get you information like this. So let's see. I see a thank you for the info in the chat. I didn't know if anyone else had anything else. I know we've kind of got a little bit of a smaller group here today, and we will release the recording. So if no questions on board, what I will do is I will relieve myself from being host here. And if anyone does have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them. And if anyone has any follow-ups or wants me to get something back to them in the future, I can do that as well too. So young professionals, I'm kicking it back to you.
Brent, thank you. Thank you so much. And yeah, sorry for the little delay this at the beginning. Yeah, we will definitely get your contact information. We have this recorded, so we will be posting this on all of our social media platforms, Facebook and Instagram, and the other couple ones that we have. Want to thank MOR again for helping sponsor this. We did do a drawing for the house that Rob built, and the winner was Anna Rage. I hope that I got that last name correct. If you want to message us your email address, we can get you the necessary information. This is the second, and we will have our third and final installment with Opportunity Mortgage on May 18th. So be looking for that information to be out here soon. And again, Brent, we appreciate everything. Super informative, and we'll get this posted to our social media, and we'll let you know. And yeah, thank you so much.
Excellent. All right. Well, thanks for having me. Glad I could be on this evening.
All right, guys. Everybody else, we appreciate you getting on. And if you have any questions, feel free to email us or hit us up on one of our media platforms. And have a good rest of the night. Stay safe.